Welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast, your safe space to finally focus on YOU. I'm Twitty-Hawkins, your self-care coach for moms, praying wife, and mom of four. And I know that being a Christ-centered mom is such a beautiful calling, but it can be so draining. That's why it's important to make sure you are filling your own cup. On this podcast, we'll discuss practical, holistic self-care strategies to help nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Because a mama who fills her own cup pours that back into her family with true peace and joy. Tune in for honest conversations about motherhood and self-care because you matter too. Blessings, mamas, and welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast. I'm your host, Twitty-Hawkins, and today I have special guest Jamie Kirschner. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me.
And today we're going to talk about raising our Christian daughters through faith and connection, and of course, add in a little self-care.
Sounds great. I'm excited.
All right, let me tell you a little bit about Jamie. Jamie Kirschner is a life coach for Christian teen moms and the host of the UncommonTEEN Podcast, a top-rated podcast for Christian teen girls and a youth ministry veteran. Her heart is to encourage and inspire Christian teen girls to live boldly and confidently who God created them to be. So awesome. All right, now, Jamie, tell us something that's not on your official bio about you.
Oh, goodness. That's a fun one. Well, I could say that I grew up in a town of only 125 people.
Wow.
I think this year, though, I moved away like 20 years ago, and I think this year they finally broke 200 people. So I'm from a very small town. I love the small town feel, and that is something about me. I love to be outside, and I love to see the stars at night.
That's awesome. So what's the difference between the small town and where you live now?
Honestly, we actually just moved out to a small town about 3 years ago because the city I lived in, it was a suburb, but it grew from like 20,000 people to like 60,000 people in just a few short years. And I was like, I don't want to hear sirens 10 times a day. I want the quiet. I want the peace. And so we actually just moved out to a very small town. And so, yeah, I love it here.
Wow. Small town living. Okay, Jamie. So what encouraged you or what inspired you to start the UncommonTEEN?
This is a good question. So I actually did not grow up a Christian. I became a Christian when I was 17 years old. And I'd grown up in a home where there was a lot of abuse. There was drugs, alcohol, just a lot of we were in poverty, just not a lot of great things going on in my life, and never really felt loved or accepted. And then my senior year of high school, I found that there was this God who actually really does love me, and he sent his son to die for me. And I was like, wait, somebody actually loves me? And it changed my life. And so the summer after I graduated high school, I started working at a Christian camp, and it was high school week. And I was walking around campus and I saw this group of girls under a tree, and I just shared with them what God had done in my life. And I didn't realize it at the time, but they had come from a foster home, and they had no idea that God really did love them. And so I got to be a light to them. And it was in that moment that I really felt like God was telling me, this is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. And so I started youth ministry almost immediately, and I've been in youth ministry now for 21 years. And and then about 2017, I really felt like God was saying, okay, I need you to step out, and I want you to do something a little bit more than serving in youth. And I love youth ministry. I'm actually a volunteer. I've only been a volunteer for 21 years. We're not pastors. We just love what we do. And so we've just been serving under our youth pastor for over 20 years. But I knew it was always something more. And in 2017, God began to talk to me, and I began to say, don't you realize who I am? When he called me to Christian teens, I was like, I was barely even a Christian when I was a teenager. Like, how are you going to call me to work with Christian teens? And so I fought him for a couple of years. But really around 2019, 2020, I really my eyes were opened up to like youth ministries in America, and how youth pastors had no idea what like the Bible. They didn't know what they were going to be teaching. Like youth ministries became less discipleship and more fun. And I was just like, I was kind of like shocked and blown away. And it really felt like God was saying, okay, it's time, because these girls need to know that they are truly loved by God. They need to know the truth of the gospel. And so in 2020, when everything shut down, and that first Wednesday night, we were supposed to have youth ministry, and I was doing praise and worship on TV. And I was like, I reached out to God. It like broke my heart. I reached out to God, and I was like, God, if I'm supposed to reach these teenagers, how am I supposed to do this if I can't even see them? And it was in that moment, God spoke to my heart, not with like words I could hear, but just inside my heart. And he said, you're not just holding yourself back, you're holding these girls back too. And I was like, okay. And so that was really the heart behind it, was like just to see this generation who is so hungry for God and not getting answers, to be there to answer those questions that they have and to let them know that God is the answer to every single challenge that they will ever face.
Amen. I'm over here shaking my head because I can relate to, are you sure, God? And fighting him for years. I can definitely relate to all of that. But I'm so encouraged by having you on the podcast because as we chatted before we started recording, I do have a teenage daughter and she has a heart and a hunger for Christ. I did grow up Christian, but my hunger was not like hers. And so I'm just like, oh, it's beautiful to see. It's so beautiful to see.
Yeah, I love it.
So with coaching teen girls, what do you find in today's culture what would you say are their main struggles that they're dealing with?
A lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity. Honestly, the underlying cause is all just not understanding their true identity in Christ. Trying to get their identity from their friends or from the world or from what people have said about them. That has been like the underlying like theme to everything that we talk to, or that I coach about. I know that there was a girl that I coached one time, and on the outside, she looked like she had it all together. She was popular. She was in sports. She was like one of the best on her team. And her mom one day found her journal and just laid it open on her bed and was like just straightening up her room a little bit, and saw that her daughter had written about like how she wanted to take her life and how she didn't want to live anymore. And her mom was just like, I mean, heartbroken. She's like, I never even knew that my daughter felt this way. And then I started coaching her, and we started talking about identity. We talked about purpose, how God designed her for a specific purpose. And she told me by week 3, she was like, this is the first time in my life that I felt like I wasn't an accident. This is the first time in my life I realized that God really does love me and that he has a purpose for my life. I mean, she was night and day different from the time she started coaching to the time that her coaching sessions were over. And I wish I could take credit for that, but I can't. It's all God. It's all God. I cannot take any credit for that. I'm just blown away by these girls who are just so broken and hurting. And like back whenever I was growing up, you could tell the ones that were broken, the ones that were hurting. They were always dressed in like dark colored clothes and didn't really talk to anybody and off by themselves. But then, or they put on a mask and they were somebody that was fake and you could just see it. But today they have so perfected that mask that like parents can't even tell that their daughters or their sons even are really struggling. And so that's one of the things that like I really just it's so important for me to talk about who it is that God says they are, and not who it is that they think they are or others say that they are.
Mm-hmm. So how can we as their mothers, how can we support them in that?
That's a really good question, because I find the teenage years can be interesting because as our daughters grow up, they want that independence and they don't necessarily want their parents to be around as much as they were.
Right.
And so in those moments, like I have an 18-year-old daughter and she's getting ready to go to college, which is so crazy to me. But she was one that she has always been independent from the time she was young. And she started to pull away. And in those moments as moms, we need to press in. And we need to take that time to just sit down with them like, hey, how are you doing? Like really, like not surface level, hey, how are you doing? But like, how are you really doing? Is there anything I can pray with you about? And just be that encouragement to our daughters, because a lot of times they don't feel like they can talk to us, especially if we've been moms in the past that have been like, we freak out if they do something and we're like, what are you doing? They won't come to us in those moments. And so, and if you do freak out, if you do like mess up, apologize. Like that's one of the biggest things. Our daughters need to see that we are human and we make mistakes. And hey, I'm sorry. I should not have talked to you that way. What I said was not okay. And I just ask if you forgive me. And so like, that's important. They need to see that, because that's also teaching them lessons. Like when they mess up, instead of defending themselves or, like you're just going to with what happened, they learn like, hey, that wasn't okay. And they learn to forgive others and to forgive themselves when they watch you do it.
Yes, that's so true. Be the example and be their safe space. I think that's something I've had a lady on the podcast before, and we talked about trauma and how we're dealing with childhood trauma from when we were kids, and you might have been in that be seen, not heard generation. And so you're kind of like battling that, but you want to raise your children differently. So it's important to be their safe space where they feel like, hey, I can come to mama and tell her, I messed up, or not I messed up, but I have these feelings. I'm afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also say you said safe place or safe space, and it just reminded me of something else. Find out where your daughter talks to you best, because sometimes it may not even be at your home. It may not be in their room.
Mhm.
My daughter and I, we talk best when we're in the car together. And it's just her and I, and she'll open up, and I'll be able to just listen and encourage her. But like just finding that place, she likes to go shopping. So I'll go shopping with her and we'll just talk. And so it's finding that place of where they will open up, because a lot of times, I mean, my daughter has a little brother. He's not so much little, he's actually bigger than her, but who is 16, but he wants to know everything and be in everything. And so if we have those conversations here, she may not open up like she would if it was just her and I in the car or at the mall or wherever.
Right. That makes sense. Find the space where she opens up.
Yeah.
'Cause she might have nosy brothers.
And I would also say to find those activities. Like I said, my daughter likes to go shopping, but find those activities that they like to do and just do them with them. Hey, do you want to go out and do this? And that's those pressing in moments where, because when you're a mom and you're like my daughter being 18, I'm not in the same place now where I was when she was younger, where I could, kind of guide her and direct her and tell her to do. It doesn't look the same now. And so now I'm moving more into that friendship role versus under my roof, you're my child and you're going to listen to me role.
Yeah.
And so like finding those things that they like to do and just really making time to do that, being very intentional is very important.
Being intentional. I say that often. Intentional.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you find is one mistake that moms unintentionally, because sometimes it's not intentional, unintentionally make when they're trying to connect with their teen daughters?
If you're anything like me, I try to fix everything. I'm a fixer. I'm a coach. Like that's what I do. I help people like fix the challenges that they have. But a lot of times, like my daughter's like, you're not really listening to me. I need you to listen to me. I don't need you to like solve the problem for me. I just want you to listen. And that's one of the biggest things that I have to watch out for, because I'm just a natural fixer. And so I'm like, oh, we need to do this. And she's like, that's not what I'm asking. That's not what I want. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that we don't always have to fix everything, and actually we shouldn't fix everything, because if we do, we will never teach them to fix their own challenges as they're going out in life. They're not always going to be with us. Right. And as hard as that is to think about, they're not always going to be with us. And so it's good just to be there, to be that listening ear. And then like, if you do have a solution or you have something that you want to encourage them with, ask them like, hey, as I'm listening to this, I have an idea. Would you like to hear the idea that I have? And start asking those questions. Like, I think one of the biggest things, I don't know, I grew up in the public school system, and where I grew up, it's like they teach you what to think. They don't actually teach you how to think. And so like, as our kids are growing up and as we're training up our kids, our daughters, it's important to teach them how to think. So asking them those questions, they start to think, do I really want your answers? Or is this something that I think I can do on my own? Is this something that I think I can try on my own? I think that's really important, is to teach our children how to think, not what to think. And so like a lot of times when I get that fix it mentality, I think it's from, I was always taught what to think. Like, this is the way it's going to be and this is what you're going to do, and no questions asked. But like to teach our kids, hey, it's okay for you to ask questions. It's okay for you to start thinking for yourself. It's very important.
It is. It's very important. For my married mamas who are listening, when she talked about fixing everything, y'all know we just want to tell our husbands, but we don't want them to fix it. I parallel it with that. Like, I just want you to listen. So sometimes our daughters, they just want us to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So what impact does a mother's emotional and spiritual health have to do, or how would you say it affects our children's, their confidence in their identity?
I think that is so important. I think that it affects them in a big way. I have some friends that I have been talking to lately, and the mom has been walking through some stuff with her husband was injured a couple of years ago, and it's been really challenging for her to walk that situation out. And I see how like she has been affected like her identity has been affected, like the things that she does, her attitude has been affected. And I watched one of her daughters actually this just recently was experiencing some symptoms in her body where she was like her stomach was hurting, she couldn't keep food down, and it just stemmed off of the stress that her mom was walking through. And it had nothing to do with her, and like the mom and her have a great relationship, but they sense that, they see it, and they start to internalize that, and they take it in. And that really, I mean, as parents, as moms, we have to make sure that we are in a good place with our walk with God, making sure that we're giving everything to Him and not holding on to that stress, because we do pass it on to our children. I mean, it's so, so, so important. And with my friend that's been walking through this situation, I've really been encouraging her to like really focus on the Word of God. What are the promises that God says in His Word that you can stand on? Because God's Word has more authority than what you are seeing right now in the physical. And so like just helping her to keep her sight focused on what God says versus what she's actually saying. And I saw within the last week, I talked to her, and I could tell she was in a different place. She had joy, she had peace, and it was able to give it to God. And it was amazing how her daughter started feeling better, because she wasn't taking that in. And even though their situation is a little bit challenging still, actually, it's quite a bit challenging still, knowing that she's releasing it to God and saying, you know what, God, I'm choosing your joy. I'm choosing your peace, because your word says that the joy of the Lord is my strength. Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so I'm choosing your joy over this circumstance. How that has really just transformed, even just in a short period of time, is transformed the relationship, or the way that her daughter has felt. I mean, it's amazing how if we are trying to do everything in our own strength, how it affects everybody around us. It doesn't just affect us, it affects everybody. And it's only in those moments where we just say, okay, I've got to get away with God, because right now I'm like working in my flesh and I'm really having a hard time choosing that peace. And I'm having a hard time even seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That's not a train. And just like getting with God and just spending that time and saying, I'm releasing this to you, God, you take it. And you know what to do with it. So you take it, and I'm just going to stand on your word. And I know that your word is truth.
Yes, yes. You said something important. You said a lot of important things. But something that sticks out there, always watching and learning from us. And not just that, but as you talked about, it affects them in mental, emotional, and even physical ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, her daughter went to the doctor, and he was asking her if she was pregnant. And she's not. She's a very strong Christian girl. She's not pregnant. And like just all of that, like it was just like embarrassing to her, because she's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. That's not like, I'm not that. And that makes it harder on her, because she's dealing with these things physically. And now like these questions are being asked it's not helping her. It's actually only hurting her worse. And so with this situation though, like God is, I mean, with any situation, it doesn't matter what you're walking through, you've got to take that time to pull away with God. Like you have to, as a mom, like so many times we're so concerned about our kids or our family that we're like giving them everything. And like we are taking our relationship with God and putting it last. And I remember when my kids were younger and I was doing that. I wasn't taking the first time in the morning to spend with God. And I do highly encourage first thing in the morning too. I encourage that for so many reasons. One, if you do it before you go to bed, you're gonna be too tired to really get anything out of it. But two, I always say like, when you start your time with God, it's like Peter walking on the water. Like you're walking on the water with Jesus. You're starting your day on top of the water. But if the moment we don't spend our day like focusing on Jesus, like first focusing on that time with God, that's when we begin to sink. And then we're trying to tread water, just trying to keep our head above water all day long. And it's like, we start with God, like we're walking on the water with Him, and things aren't perfect and they won't go exactly the way they should, but we have God by our side. We have Jesus by our side, helping us, walking us through that. And so we don't have to struggle. We don't have to have that challenge, because we're like, okay, God, I know that you got this, because I know that you're always there with me. The Holy Spirit's on the inside of me, and I know He's taking care of things, and I'm going to rely on you. But if we don't take that time first thing in the morning, it's really hard to remember that.
I agree. I start just about every morning in prayer, because first of all, I'm not a morning person. So I need to get my mind and my spirit right. But yes, you're right. That does help throughout the day. And sometimes I do pray at night, but like you said, it's not it's not the same. It doesn't get the same attention because I'm worn out. I'm exhausted mentally, emotionally, and physically. I'm like, oh Lord, thank you for today, Lord. Just like
Yeah.
tired.
And one thing I do, I like to go outside and pray. I like to, and like I said, I live in a small town, but like I like to go outside and pray so I don't have the distractions of house cleaning and chores and all the stuff like to
Mhm.
like looking at me all day long. So when I spend time with God, I like to go outside. I like to go to a place where it's just God and me, and I just talk to him, and I have that time with us. And I am a morning person. I
God
get up
bless
at
you.
5 o'clock in the morning without an alarm clock.
God bless you. You're like my husband.
But but even if I wasn't, I would still wake up early, and especially earlier than my kids, so that I could get that alone time with God. And even if I was tired, that time spent with God is so important. It's so vital, especially before the day gets started. And if you sleep in and you get up at the same time as your kids, then you're going to start your day off. Things are already going to be happening. There's already going to be
Yep.
it's going to be
Start the day
go go
running.
go. So yeah.
For a mom who's maybe she's listening and maybe she doesn't have a good relationship with her daughter, or maybe it's not that it's a bad relationship, but they're not really close. What is the first step you would tell her to take to start connecting with her?
Yeah, this is important. This is so good. One of the first things I would encourage you to do is start praying blessings over your daughter and like start imagining and visualizing what a good relationship with her looks like and talk to God about that. And we're actually kind of walked through this with my husband and my daughter. They are totally opposites, but they are like not opposites that like are close. And he was having a hard time with this over the last couple years. And one of the things that he has really started doing was he started just encouraging her anytime that he could. He's one that's like his love language is physical touch and hers is not.
Mm.
And so it was really hard for him, but he started just praying blessings over her. He started just like imagining like a relationship, like what does it look like to have that close, strong relationship, but also praying over our daughter when it comes to like her walk with God and like hearing from God and just following and, just having that heart for God. And our daughter does have a heart for God. She really does. But like as he's praying over her, we went to a conference last week. It was a family conference, and we saw God just moving in her life. And we found out like the root cause of like what was going on between those two was actually rejection. And it wasn't rejection from my husband, it was rejection from friends when she was younger. And so like as we're praying about this and as we're asking, like thanking God that he is going to be like he's intervening in her life, he's just showing her his love. Romans 2:4 says it's your kindness that leads you to repentance, and it's his goodness that draws us to him. And so like just praying those blessings over them, like just watching how God is coming through is pretty incredible. So my biggest thing is like don't get frustrated. Don't let your emotions overcome you. Like if you want it to be better and it's not great right now, like don't let your emotions control you, because if you let your emotions control you, you're only going to push her further away. And then that's also earlier when I talked about find those activities that she likes to do and do them with her. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really key. Like my husband would take my daughter shopping, and they would talk, and it was just really sweet to see that. And so that's what I would encourage you, like take time to pray over your kids, all your kids, pray over all your kids, because the enemy wants to divide families. He doesn't want us to have those strong relationships with one another. He wants us divided, because if he can divide us, he can conquer us. And so take that time, and instead of focusing on what you're seeing in the natural world, in the physical world, start praying over your family and thanking God for unity and thanking him for joy and peace and the fruits of the spirit that we all have on the inside of us when we got born again. Begin to speak those things over your family. And over time, not overnight, but over time, you will see those things begin to change.
Yes, over time. So be patient. The same way it takes time for God to work on us. The same way.
Exactly.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So this is something I ask all my guests. What is your favorite form of self-care?
My favorite form of self-care would be probably my time with God. Like that's my favorite more than anything. I love getting alone with God. I love studying the Bible. Like I love spending time in prayer, but like that's my favorite form. If I don't have that time with God, I don't have anything. And so that's what I would say.
Awesome. Okay, so let our audience know, and for you guys that are listening, I'll have this in the show notes. But where can they find you online, like your website and social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So social media, I'm not the best at keeping up to date on because I'm not the biggest fan of social media. So I'm believing that God is bringing me somebody to do that for me. But you
Amen.
can find me. You can find me at uncommonteen.com. The podcast is there too. The podcast is called Uncommon Teen, and it is specifically for Christian teen girls. And we talk about the real life challenges that they're walking through. We're going to be talking about, we talked recently about secret sins. We talked about, is it okay to lie, even if they're small little white lies to help protect other people? Like we talk about dating and all the fun stuff. But we talk about it's specifically for Christian teen girls, just talking about those real life challenges and those questions that they have so that they can overcome them with God. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. I sent the link to my daughter. I was like, this is a podcast you can listen to. I hope she gets a lot out of that. And do you have any events coming up that you like to share?
I do. We actually have our annual conference, and this year we are online. And so it is October 3rd through the 5th. I think that's the right dates. Let me make sure. No, I am actually wrong. It's October 2nd through the 4th. So our conference is October 2nd through the 4th. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be powerful. We're going to have a lot of fun on there. The conferences that I do are not just speakers and you just listen to it and it's like, okay, yay. But they are interactive. And so after every speaker, we have an activity. They'll get to meet other girls from all over the world and join groups with them and take action on what they had heard so that they're not just hearing it, but they're remembering it and applying it to their life. And so very excited about our conference.
Awesome. And is this your first conference?
It is not. This is our second.
Okay.
Or no, this is our third. This is our third
All right. Okay. That's awesome. I was looking on your website. I was like, oh, okay, she got a conference. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. We have a blast. The last couple of years we've done it in person. This year we're doing it online, but the dates just didn't work out the way we wanted them to. But I'm excited. I think this year is actually going to be a lot of fun. And so very excited about it.
That's awesome. Hopefully you'll reach more girls all around the world.
Yes, that's the plan.
All right. All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining us, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blessing to be on here.
Awesome. And mamas who are listening, I hope this has blessed you. As you know, well, you may not if this is your first time listening to the podcast, but I have a teen daughter and we need all the help we can get. So ladies, as I often say, save this episode, get yourself a pen and some paper and take notes and take intentional and consistent action to connect with your daughter and support her through her journey. Because as we talked about briefly, they're dependent on us, but we're raising them to be independent and to be able to lean on God while they're in our home and after they leave.
Yeah.
So make sure you save this episode, share with the mom you love, and subscribe if you have not, and leave a review if this blessed you. Until next time, take care. God bless. Thanks so much for joining me for the Mom Self-Care Podcast. I hope you feel inspired to make yourself a priority too. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Share this podcast with another mama you love and leave a review. Also, feel free to let me know what you would like to hear about in future episodes by visiting me on Instagram at CIC Inspire Me. Until next time, take some time to take care of YOU because you matter too.